about their great success. These juniors, raise your hand when I call your name, Jasmine Chavu and Jessica Reed, have been chosen to join the Cavalcade of Bands Honor Band and will be marching in the 2019 Tournament of Roses Parade on January 1st, 2019. When complete, the band will be made up of approximately 150 students from the tri-state area. The Cavalcade Honor Band is one of the 16 bands that will be performing at the parade. A total of 120 bands sent applications, and the Cavalcade Honor Band was the only one chosen from our region. So Jasmine and Jessica, we will be watching for you on the New Year's Day parade. Great job. We are proud of you. Okay, if I could please have the Odyssey of the Mind team from the high school up front. Here they are. This group from the high school will compete in the World Championships next month. That's right, the World Championships. Since September, team members, raise your hand when I call your name, Alyssa Anderson, Anna Dent, Gavin Kubler, Madeline Lang, Carly Levy, Ashton Mulig, and Thomas Reed have worked together to solve an assigned problem that involved creating a humorous performance centered on a science fiction hangout that includes original creatures, food, and a search for space treasure. The team developed an original script and designed and produced a theatric performance, including design and construction of a portable set as well as props and costumes. The competition also involves a spontaneous session where teams are presented with the problem they have to solve on the spot in just a few minutes, testing their mental agility, creativity, engineering skills, and teamwork. While team coaches, raise your hand, Linda Reed and Brian Kubler, supervise the team, OTM rules dictate they were not allowed to help in any way. Everything about their performance, from the script to the costumes and sets, all of it was 100% envisioned and created by the students. The team won second place at the OTM regional competition in March and advanced to the world competition as one of only 2 Pennsylvania teams in their division to win at the state level. The OTM World Competition, the largest creative problem-solving competition in the world, is a 4-day event, May 23rd to 26th at Iowa State University. OTM has a rich history here at Pennridge with several state titles and 3 world championships. Last year, the team from Penn Central, which included many of these same students, took fifth place at the world competition. This year, the district entered 5 teams in the competition, 4 of which qualified to compete at the state level. And Mr. Joe Ferry has a surprise for you from the Education Foundation.
Foundation would like to present you with this check for $500 to defray the costs of your trip to Iowa State.
Let's have another round of applause for these great students. And now may I have our future business leaders of America group come forward. And they're here with their coach, one of our high school teachers in the business department, Mr. Liancona. So these are our future business leaders, 3 of whom have qualified for nationals in Baltimore at the end of June. Please raise your hand when I call your name. Cole Canistracci, Connor Frisch, and Anthony Marcantueno took 2nd place in sports and entertainment management at the State Leadership Conference in Hershey earlier this month to earn their spot in nationals. We also had 3 students placed in the top 20 at the state conference. Alana Lee earned 8th place in business communications, while Luke Pomper and Sam Osimo finished 6th in digital video design. While they did not qualify for nationals, finishing in the top 10 statewide is a wonderful accomplishment. But congratulations to the 3 that we are honoring tonight. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Radigan. That's great news about the Cavalcade Honor Band, the Odyssey of the Mind team going to the World Competition, the FBLA members who placed at the state competition, and the 3 who are going to the national event. So thank you for sharing that. All right, our next item on the agenda is public comment. The Pennridge School Board welcomes public comment. According to Policy 903, we remind everyone of the following. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise specified by the board. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and note their name and municipality. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer rather than to individual board members, district employees, or members of the public. A speaker may speak once during each comment period. Please note that these sessions are designated for comments. To protect the confidentiality and privacy rights of all members of our community, the board encourages members of the public to direct any comments regarding particular individuals, such as students or district employees, privately to the superintendent or other appropriate administrators or board members, or to communicate with the board and superintendent privately by sending an email to psdschoolboard@pennridge.org. Questions raised and not addressed may be followed up at a later time. I did not see on my way in if there was the sign-in sheet. Did anybody? Mrs. Cron, was there one placed up there? Okay, all right. So we'll wait for Mr. Ferry to bring that in. Okay. The first name on the list is Allison Ross.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Allison Ross. Hello?
Yep, that's
Good. Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Allison Ross, and I've been a science teacher in the Pennridge School District for almost 30 years. I'm not here tonight to speak about negotiations. I've decided to retire, so the current negotiations will not affect me directly. I do find it sad, though, that I started my career in the Pennridge School District, and I'll end my career in the Pennridge School District being at the bottom, or almost the bottom, in terms of salary in our county. The inference one could make is that my profession is not valued by our community or our school board. This may not be true, but to an extent, it's how I perceive it. But this is not the reason I've decided to retire. The list of reasons why I'm retiring is fairly long, and time constraints this evening will not allow me to go into detail. But if you're interested, I'd be happy to meet with any of you individually or as a group to discuss my reasons that the I should go column has finally outweighed the I should stay column. When I analyzed my primary reason for leaving, I realized it's something that all of you have direct control over, and that's class size. I understand that reducing class size means increasing staff, and that is expensive. But if you consider the overall benefit, the gains, I believe, would outweigh the costs. By the way, when I started teaching 30 years ago, I didn't need to print my speech in font size 24. Just saying. I teach 7th grade science, and I have 172 kids on my team, 147 of whom I teach. Let me repeat, I teach 147 12 and 13-year-olds. I start my day with 33 in a class, and I end my day with 34 students. A Pennridge School Board member once famously said, "A good teacher should be able to teach 40 kids in a barn." And that's a true statement, by the way. And to an extent, I actually agree with her. What's different now, though, from when I started teaching in the late 80s, and what needs to be factored in, is the increased needs of our students. For our team this year, we have 25 students with learning support IEPs, 5 with emotional support IEPs, 5 with speech issues, 1 with an IEP for hearing. 10 students have 504 plans. 42 receive math support. 12 receive Read 180 support. 5 have occupational or physical therapy. We have 8 new kids to the district, 15 students with gifted IEPs, and 23 students who have gone through the IST process this year. This is a total of 151 names on the special needs list for my team alone. And have I mentioned that they're 12 and 13 years old? There are some who will say there is no definitive data on how class size affects learning. I disagree. Just talk to the kids or talk to any of us. A class of 24 students, which was about the norm when I began teaching, and is the NSTA recommendation for a safe science classroom, allows for more one-on-one time between students and teachers. It allows students who may need a little extra help to get it on a more regular basis. It is better for the emotional and social well-being of the students and the teachers. I would propose that spending the money needed to reduce class size would pay off in the long run, with higher standardized test scores, less stressed, more confident students, increased morale among staff and students alike, a feeling of belonging and safety in our increasingly scary world, and finally, and perhaps most importantly, an increase in the actual learning our children can accomplish, therefore better preparing them for the real world out there. Because isn't that our primary task? Isn't that what should be the root of all decisions made in this room? Not us versus them, not politics, not who's to blame for what isn't working, but how can we better teach our kids? I hope that you will consider decreasing class size as one means to accomplish this goal. Our kids deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ross. Okay, the next name on the list is Ed Mackhouse.
My name's Ed Mackhouse. I spoke last time, the last meeting.
Sir, can you tell us your municipality and your connection to Pennridge?
Okay. I'm actually from Central Buck School District, and I'm in Buckingham, Furlong, and I have my son-in-law's parents live in Pennridge now. And so I have a connection that way. And the connection is, I was a teacher for 10 years, and I appreciate what Pennridge has done in standing up for law and order, responsibility for students, that standing by the thing that students can't just walk out of the school to protest certain things. And I think it's part of the educational process. I was a teacher for 10 years. I told my students that, yes, you can do wrong things, you can be bad. I can't catch you and I can't correct you for everything that you do wrong. As a parent and as a teacher, we're doing things to help you and to try and help you correct yourself so you do what is right. And so God knows and you know that you don't get away with anything. If you get away with doing wrong, you'll suffer and other people will suffer in the future. I think the Pennridge School Board is an outstanding school board, and you stand for the students, and I appreciated the way you answered the questions of students who walked out and explained why you could not have a special privilege of them walking out without giving that right to other people. So, comparing Pennridge to Parkland School District, where the Parkland School District, there was 100 complaints, 35 documented complaints about the student crews. He put guns to the heads of students, and girls mostly intimidated, and they didn't do anything. They had a new discipline policy. They coordinated with the police, and to correct the so-called imbalances, that they didn't take this person's gun away. They didn't incarcerate him or so there'd be a record or mental thing or for mental help. For 5 years, they were doing this, pushing the thing around, and no one taking responsibility. So I commend your school board for taking responsibilities, and the NRA would save millions of lives, millions of people. I know a 9-year-old uses a firearm, so-called assault weapon, to keep from his mother from being raped, and then keeping from someone breaking into a school, another 9-year-old. So it's not a question of age, it's a question of responsibility. The NRA people save a million lives every year by defending them, and to take away millions of people's rights to defend their families.
Thank you, sir.
Is wrong.
Thank you. The next name on the list is Carlo Grillitti, or Grillit?
Yeah, I'll give up my time. I think this gentleman defined what I was going to say quite well.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next name on the list is Andrea Tambori.
That was a just in case
Huh,
comment.
you don't want to speak now? Okay. All right, is there anyone else who would like to make public comment? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, we will move on with our agenda. The first item is the consent calendar. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Yarnell and seconded by Mrs. Cullen. Does anybody have any comments or questions or anything that needs to be voted on separately? Okay, seeing and hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Okay, next item on the agenda is the student liaison report. And Sydney Herman is here?
Yes,
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sydney Herman. I am a senior here at Pennridge High School, and I am the corresponding secretary on our student council. So last Tuesday, we had a blood drive through Miller Keystone, and we signed up as many people as we could. I believe there were 120 slots, and we even had to turn some people away, so it was a very successful blood drive. And what was really unique about this is that the blood was actually going to our community, so people were helping people in our community, which was really great, and a lot of people really found like inspiration in that, so that was amazing. And upcoming events for us is on May 18th. We are going to have Sidewalk Chalk Day, where students are going to be able to go outside and draw appropriate chalk designs outside of the school. So this is something we've been doing every year. It's a very annual event, very popular. And yeah, that's about it. Very fun, very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Sydney. That's great news. And hopefully pictures from the Sidewalk Chalk Day will be posted and shared. That's always fun to see. All right, the next item is the President's Report. And I just have a few things to share. The steering committee for the comprehensive plan met on April 10th. We had a wonderful response from the community when we asked for people who wanted to serve on the steering committee, with 60 people interested in participating. Unfortunately, we couldn't invite everyone to the meeting. Those who are not invited may be asked to participate at a later time, and I hope that all those who responded are involved in the school or get involved in the district in other ways as well. This high level of involvement was also evident in the comprehensive plan survey that we had back at the end of 2017, and we had over 1,100 people answering the survey questions. In addition, our superintendent search survey in February had an even bigger response. Over 1,300 people responded to our questions, and those results are posted on the district website. They're still there at the top of the site under the superintendent search. The superintendent position was posted in March, and a number of highly qualified candidates applied. The board is in the interview stage of the process now. And finally, the district administration hosted a safety meeting with the local chiefs of police last Monday, April 16th. I'm very pleased that we were able to offer that for our parents and community members, since parents have had heightened concerns about safety during the past several months. People were able to submit questions and comments in advance of the meeting, and the administration addressed frequently asked questions. And after the presentation by the administration and one of the police chief, the floor was open to questions. So a lot of people got to ask questions that night and have their questions answered. And for those who could not attend, the meeting is posted on the district's new YouTube channel. So we're getting a few videos up there. So that's something we started last month as well. So that's what I have for the President's Report. The next item is the Superintendent's Report. Dr. Radigan.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Yardley. First, I'd like to thank South Middle School for the district office meeting room display. Second, our Takes Pride theme of the month of May will be dependability. Students will be reminded that dependability is the quality of demonstrating reliability. A person who is dependable is one others can count on for their truthfulness and integrity. Individuals who demonstrate dependability have a reputation of doing what they say they are going to do. They persist in projects and responsibilities until the task or job is complete. And I have some points of pride to share tonight. Mr. Ken Ehrman, who teaches 5th grade at Seiler, is among 12 finalists for Teacher of the Year Award from the Department of Education. He was nominated by a group of Seiler parents and has advanced through the process. I'm sure many of you are aware of the great things Mr. Ehrman has done in introducing STEM concepts to his students. Over the next few months, Mr. Ehrman will prepare various items, including a video of one of his lessons for the judges' consideration. The winner will be named in December. Good luck to Mr. Ehrman. For the 3rd year in a row, the Pennridge School District has been designated by the National Association of Music Merchants Foundation as among the best communities for music education 2018. Only about 500 school districts, or about 4% across the United States, are awarded this honor, which is based on high commitment and access to music education. As you know, we take great pride in giving our students many opportunities to explore their interests and talents both in and out of the classroom. One of the ways we do this is with an active music program that starts at the elementary level and continues right through high school. Every year, hundreds of children participate in band, orchestra, and choir programs that help them develop as individuals. This award is a wonderful testament to the school board, administration, and the many teachers, past and present, who have shared their passion for music with their students. They all share in the belief that a robust program in the arts is a fundamental building block of a well-rounded education program. Staying on the music theme, 20 of our middle school singers participated in the 67th Annual Bucks County Music Educators Association Music Festival. The students were Sophia Birnbaum, Emily Joe, Josephina Mason, Lacey Bockhart, Sarah Saprisi, Lauren Lee, Grace King, Natalie Holsizer, Anna De La Rosa, Ryan Martin, Scott Borgie, Rachel Wilson, Riley Bloor, Allison Salfrank, Alyssa Weisberg, Naomi Shepard, Lily Cesaire, Luke Bailey, Dean Wilson, and Aiden Carey. Congratulations to all. And we also have a number of students whose achievements deserve congratulations tonight. Senior Grace Lockery scored the 200th goal of her lacrosse career. Grace has earned an appointment to the U.S. Naval Academy. Senior Bryce Schmel has been named Student of the Month for March at the Upper Bucks Technical School. Bryce is a member of the XXX program. He also won a silver for marine repair at the Pennsylvania State Skills USA competition. Also at Skills USA, Senior Dylan Miller won a gold medal in motorcycle repair. Seniors Jason Badal and Holly Files were named Students of the Month for March and April by the Percy Rotary Club. Michigan Deal, a senior in the landscaping program at Upper Bucks Technical School, earned a $500 scholarship from the Percy Garden Club. Middle schoolers Joey Cullen, Penn Central, and Connor Craig, Penn North, represented Pennridge at the state-level Geography Bee. Competing against 102 students from across the state, Joey wound up in 14th place while Connor ended up in 50th. And the Pennridge School District Student Council was awarded the Citizen Service Commendation by the Pennridge Regional Police Commission for their outstanding organization of the Remembrance Assembly honoring the Parkland, Florida victims. So congratulations to all these students.
Thank you, Dr. Radigan. All right, we will move into committee reports. First one is activities. Mrs. Cullen.
Okay, the Activities Committee did not meet, and the next meeting is scheduled for April 30th in this room.
Okay, the Curriculum Committee. The Curriculum Committee did not have a meeting since our last board meeting, but we do have a motion that was tabled last month, so it was put onto this month's agenda. So I would like to move to approve the program improvement proposal for middle school social studies.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Yardley, seconded by Dr. Yarnell. Any questions or comments?
I would just like to comment that I would prefer that all of our textbooks go through the same vigorous process, whether we're renewing an old textbook or we're switching to a new textbook, because that's not currently how it's done. That would be my preference going forward. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Oppose?
Nay.
And again, was everybody, so everyone over here was nay? You're an aye? Okay, and then 3 nays?
Nay.
Nay and nay, okay. So the...
I'm a yes.
Okay, I heard that, so it seems that the motion fails 4-5. Is that what you got, Mrs. Cron?
Who's the fifth one? No. Me.
Yeah, so the ayes, I believe, are Dr. Yarnell, Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Walters, and I.
Okay.
And I believe everyone else is a nay, is that correct?
Mrs. Yardley, I'd
Yeah.
just like to add that this textbook has been vetted by our administration and our social studies supervisor. I don't understand what the problem is, and as I understand it, isn't it an update from our current text?
Yeah, I'm going to let...
So I'm just confused. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to let Dr. Scheid respond.
Thank you, Mrs. Yardley. Mrs. Miller, that is correct. We did go through the adoption process for this particular textbook. We did go through the process that we are supposed to go through. This is an updated version of that textbook, And to just reiterate, I know I sent the ebook to everyone so that you could take a look at it. I'm not quite sure about anybody's concerns other than one school board member, but I do want to reiterate that this is a very heavy book. It's an outdated book. The new book would come with ebooks and the online resources for students.
Right.
This book has more current information and the text is more sophisticated. So they were the reasons why we recommended this book. It was the one that we wanted to recommend from the very beginning because, as I said, this was a book that we was already approved by the school board. So this is the updated version. The version that students currently use is 2007. And again, with the technology that's been approved in our middle schools, this book would have the e-version for students, so they're not carrying around a huge textbook like that. And it isn't the only reason. And if you go through the assessments of this particular upgrade, they're far more sophisticated in terms of critical thinking as well. So in terms of the process, I think it was a very thoughtful process. And I thank Mr. Viverka and the social studies teacher for going through that process, and I fully supported it. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that a process was done. And for the reasons that I've just expressed, that is why we recommend this book.
And Dr. Scheid, I really appreciate your thoroughness in this, and I'm not understanding why this is not being approved. But thank you again for all your hard work in getting this textbook in place for our students. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm not understanding either, because if there was a problem with the process, it should have been discussed at the curriculum meeting back in February. And the reason that people wanted to wait on the vote was because they wanted to see the textbook. So I don't understand, there was never any concern with the process. It was always, we want to see the textbook. And now that you saw the textbook, now you're going back to saying that there was a problem with the process.
I would just like to say that it is not the same process if you are getting a new edition, as you had stated before, as it is if you are getting a completely different book. And to say that this was somehow gone through extensively when we didn't even have a copy of the book when it was first proposed to us and no one could have read it. How do you propose a book that we're supposed to approve when the people proposing it never even had an opportunity to read it just because it was the book we had before? So to suggest that the process is the same, it is not the same. I think that we need to make people work. I think that we need to make the companies that want to sell us materials work harder and send us all of those different materials and be able to vet all of the materials. Just because we liked something 20 years ago doesn't mean it's still the best today. And I think it needs to be vetted in that process. And I also read both textbooks and I like the old one better.
The online resources were available. This wasn't selected blindly. The board did not have the textbook, and I absolutely, I mean, that is the truth. We did not have the hardback when we were at the curriculum committee, but the online resources were available. It wasn't that we couldn't see what the book looked like or anything like that. So the process isn't the same from original textbook approval and adoption, which was done in 2007, and the board approved that book. So it was a thoughtful process. We did have resources to look at, and I apologize that the textbook wasn't available at the curriculum meeting, although we did pass around the textbook to, and I know some board members wanted to look at it, and every board member received the e-books to look at every chapter, every module. Thank you.
Again, Dr. Scheid, I thank you for your thoroughness.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller.
Thank you, Dr. Scheid, and I guess we will discuss this further at the next curriculum meeting.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Yardley.
What we can do and hopefully get our students updated resources for this fall, because I believe now that it might not be possible to get them updated resources. Mr. Viverka?
That's my concern as well.
Yeah, okay.
Are we in danger of not having this in place in the fall?
All right, Mrs. Miller, Mr. Viverka
I'm sorry,
is
but
coming.
weren't we supposed to comment before the vote instead of after the vote? I'm really confused because we're not really following the proper procedure.
Well, occasionally we have a question after the vote.
No, we don't. It's before. That's why there's comments and questions, and then people vote. So I don't know why we weren't having this discussion before. That was the opportunity.
Well, I think people didn't know.
Are you trying to stifle discussion?
No, you can discuss
concerned
away.
about that.
You're just not by.
Yes, Mrs. Clemens, you're talking about the social studies supervisor, and I am the social studies supervisor, so I did this process. I went through this process. So if you have questions about this process, you can address that to me. What is the problem with the process exactly?
First of all, this is completely out of order. Second of all, to suggest that it was the same vetting process when no one had access to the material to read it, how was it vetted if you couldn't read it, first of all? Because that was what I was told. I was told that no one could read it.
So what is it about the textbook that you are concerned?
And secondly, when I had the opportunity to read it, first of all, I liked the other text better. I think that this text is more dated, and it's going to be outdated in 4 years because it's more specific, and the other one was more general. But honestly, I don't have to justify.
This is a 2019 copyright.
Yeah, and it's a geography book. Look, I'm not going to get into it with you because this is not the
Okay, yeah, so we can
forum.
so let's just stop the back and forth. Mr. McBurk, if you have anything else you would like to add, and then otherwise we will move it to the curriculum committee and continue our discussion there.
Well, Mrs. Yardley, I'm just curious because 5 people have voted no for this textbook, so I'm just curious as to what is it about the textbook that you disagree with? We've already been through committee.
Actually, we weren't
And these
through-
concerns were not raised.
Excuse
We
me.
didn't have the book.
We didn't have a committee meeting since
Okay, so now that you've read the book,
we received the
what was in it that...
Okay, we will continue. And the reason I feel there was no indication before maybe we could have had the discussion before the vote if people had given an indication that it was voting against it. You said, going forward, I would like to have the same process for all the books. That gave no indication that it was going to be voted down. So,
It's a different process.
okay.
And it was, Dr. Scheib even specifically said it was a different process. So now we're going to say it's the same process?
Okay, well, do you have anything else that you would like to add, Mr. Verka, that's not a question? If you have something
I
to
guess
add.
my final comment would be that I think we're in very dangerous territory here when we have 5 school board members voting no on a textbook that was approved by the social studies supervisor, the director of curriculum, and the 7th grade social studies teachers. So I would have been, I'm very interested to know what is the problem with that textbook, and I think we're in a very dangerous place if we're starting to say that we can't approve certain textbooks for whatever reason it might be. This is a well-received textbook. This is a well-documented textbook. This is a brand new update, 2019. And so it's a great resource for our kids, and we are literally taking that resource away from our kids at this point.
The only thing I'll add to this discussion is that the board is legally obligated to approve a textbook before it's adopted. It has to carry 5 votes. So whether all of the folks in this room agree or disagree that this is the right textbook, the final authority rests with the school board to approve textbooks. So whatever textbook is going to be used is going to have to garner 5 votes. So I appreciate what the professionals are saying, but the board has final authority. It's in the school code. There aren't 5 votes, so my suggestion is that the board take this up at the next available committee meeting and go from there.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cox. So we will discuss this, add this to our curriculum agenda, and the next curriculum meeting is scheduled for May 7th. Okay, the next committee report is facilities. Mrs. Banis-Clemens.
The Facilities Committee met on April 11th. We have one item on the agenda. It's a motion to approve obsolete items, A through E.
I'll second
Okay, as second.
that. I'll second.
All right, thank you. Moved by Mrs. Banis-Clemens, seconded by Mr. Kraus. Any comments or questions on that agenda item? Okay, seeing and hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mrs. Banis-Clemens?
The next Facilities Committee is scheduled for May 2nd.
Okay, next committee report is Finance. Dr. Yarnell.
Thank you, Mrs. Yardley. The Finance Committee did have a meeting on April 11th, 2018. That night we discussed the usual approval of contracts and perhaps even more importantly, the budget. We had 3 budget presentations by different people and a general discussion about the direction the board wanted to go in terms of finalizing the budget before the proposed preliminary budget is to be voted on May the 14th, presumably. So that's what's in the minutes. Tonight I have 2 agenda items. The first is to approve the approval of a request for proposal concerning the solicitor for the board. And I make that as a motion.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, if there's no second, then the motion doesn't go anywhere.
Thank you. I'll move on to the approval of contracts. There are contracts as discussed on the night of April 11th to be approved. The contracts are listed as A through H, and I make a motion that we approve those contracts as listed and discussed at that meeting.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Yarnell, seconded by Mrs. Cullen. Is that correct?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing and hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you very much. The next Finance Committee meeting will be held along with the Facilities Committee meeting on the night of May 2nd.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yarnell. Next committee report is Mrs. Miller, the IU committee report.
Thank you. I'm going to keep this brief since I'm on the phone, but I just wanted to make a couple mentions. I'd like to recognize Catherine Bollinger, an 11th grade student whose self-portrait art piece made it into the Student Art Gallery hosted by the Bucks County IU. So congratulations to Catherine. It was an awesome piece. Also, I'd like to put forth that the run, walk, or roll Fun Run 5K race to raise funds for the IU's Education Foundation will be held this Saturday, so please consider joining me for that. Also, our next meeting will be held on May 14th instead of May 15th because of the primary and several of the board directors work the polls. So that will be held May 14th instead of May 15th. Thank you, Mrs. Yardley. That's it.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Miller. I don't know if you noted, that's our next board meeting as well, so.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to, so we have a conflict with that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, well, I don't know. You'll have to talk to Dr. Hoffman about that.
Oh, no. Okay, we were going to do it by phone, too, so,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Yeah, well, hopefully you can work it out, hopefully, and maybe with the timing, something like that, so.
Yeah,
all right.
Okay, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Thank you, Mrs. Yardley.
Yep, all right. The next committee report is the Upper Bucks County Technical School. Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Mrs. Yardley.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. I always do that. I'm sorry, I missed policy.
That's all right.
No. Oh, and personnel. Oh, I'm sorry, I just skipped way ahead. I'm just trying to move the meeting along, so, all right. I'm sorry.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay, Mrs. Cullen, personnel.
Okay. The Personnel Committee also did not meet, and the next Personnel Committee meeting is scheduled for April 30th at 6:30 in this room.
Okay, Mrs. Miller, back to you, policy.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next policy meeting is scheduled for April 30th, and we'll review our second readings for the policies we discussed last meeting and introduce, I think it's 2 more. So thank you. So April 30th is our next meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we are on to the Upper Bucks County Technical School. Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Mrs. Yardley. The VOTEC JOC did meet on April 19th, which time I'd like to thank Dr. Radigan for leading the search for a new director with the 3 sending schools, Quakertown, Palisades, and Pennridge. And we have concluded that search for a new director. Mr. Jeff Sweda was unanimously approved by the JOC. Mr. Sweda will begin transitioning with Mr. Wagenseller and is scheduled to start on July 2nd. And from state competitions, we had 3 first-placed winners that are going on to nationals in June in Indianapolis. The winners are Dylan Miller, Small Engines, Jordan Myers from Quakertown Health Occupations, and Prepared Speech, Sarah Leibel from Pennridge. And that's really all I have. The next meeting is scheduled for May 17th up at the Upper Box VOTEC.
Okay, thank you. The next committee report is Act 48, Mrs. Walters. Oh, did I skip? Oh, sorry. Technology, Mr. Kraus. Just keep moving along. Sorry. We'll go back.
All right. The Technology Committee did not meet. The next meeting is scheduled for May 7th. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Walters, Act 48.
Okay, the Act 48 committee did not meet in April. We meet again on May 10th.
Okay, thank you. And the next committee report is Pennridge Area Coordinating Committee, Mrs. Dolan and Ms. Kildare.
We did not meet either. I think it snowed that day. We were supposed to meet. And our next meeting is
next Thursday.
The 26th?
Or no, this Thursday. Or this Thursday.
Yep, 26th.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is old business. Anyone have any old business? I wanted to share that tomorrow night is the Pennridge Community Education Foundation, a lovely evening held at the Sellersville Theater. Begins at 6:30 with a reception and 7:30 with the event. And the people being honored are Mr. Nicholas Schoonover from the high school, Mr. Glenn Wonder from North Middle School, and Mr. Darrell Lowry. And he was a longtime custodian and now is a game worker, right, at the football games. So they will be honored tomorrow night, so it's still possible to get tickets. You can get tickets at the door. So just if anybody is interested, it really is a lovely evening, and many of the student groups are performing. The jazz band, the chamber choir, I believe there's some selections from the Addams Family, and then the a cappella group, the boys a cappella group is also performing. Anybody else have old business? Okay, so we will move into new business. And we have the Pennridge School District Special Education Plan Report. So I will move to approve the Pennridge School District Special Education Plan Report, July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2021. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mrs. Yardley.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Yardley, seconded by Mrs. Miller. Any comments or questions?
I was going to comment. I'd like to make a motion to table it because we just got it today and I didn't get to review all of it. And if we can have a special meeting at some other point.
I'll second.
Okay, so there was a motion to table by Ms. Kildare and second by Mrs. Banis-Clemens.
Let me just add, and I'll let Dr. Wajorka talk to us about this because we are under state guidelines to approve this by a certain date. Dr. Wajorka?
Right. We shared this as an informational item as a draft to the board at the last board meeting, March 26, 2018. So it was shared on that date, and then it was posted on the website for public review and comment on March 27th. So at the March 26th board meeting, it was shared with the board, and I shared that the timeline was we had to have it on the website for public comment from March 27th through today. We needed to have board approval today, and then May 1st is our deadline to submit it to the Bureau of Special Education. So we don't have any other option with that deadline of May 1st. So that's why we backed up the process so that there would be time for review.
I didn't hear you, Dr. Warrior. How long has it been on the website?
It was on the website from March 27th through today.
It was added,
so that was
it was
plenty
added
of
to
time
our
to review
agenda
it.
at like
Okay.
4 o'clock this afternoon, and I know some of us didn't have time to read it since 4 o'clock, and even when I tried to click on it, it didn't open. So I'm sure we can have a special board meeting. We have an activities, personnel, and policy, so maybe we can just add a special board meeting that night. But that's my comment. We can call for a vote.
And it's a motion to table. That's pending a vote.
Okay, does anybody have any other comments before we take a vote?
What about it was changed? Since
Nothing
you
was
posted?
changed.
So nothing was changed in the month that it's been
No.
up for comment? Okay.
Yeah, and yes, it was shared as a informational item at the last meeting. So, all right, any other comments? All right, so the motion on the table is the open motion right now is a motion to table this. And I guess my comment would be, so if people vote to table it, that would require either us to miss the date, or we would have to, as Mrs. Banis-Clemens, set up a special board meeting. So people should take that into consideration. So,
Is our funding attached to our rejection of this or acceptance of this?
I don't know, what would happen if we missed the deadline? Yeah, Dr. Wayorka.
I'm not sure what the repercussions are. Funding is tied to approval of the special education plan.
Okay. All right. So I will.
This has been on the website. This has been on the website.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Ms. Miller. All right. I'm going to call the vote. So this is a vote to table the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Okay. It seems like the motion to table fails with a vote of 2 to 7. Is that correct? Okay. Did you vote? Yeah, okay. All right, so that fails. So we go back to the original motion, which is to, right? I can go back to the original motion. So I go back to the original motion, which was moved by Mrs. Yardley and seconded by Mrs. Miller to approve the special education plan report July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2021. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries 7-2. Okay, I will move on to announcements.
I have an item of new business, please.
Who does?
Me.
Okay.
I want to make a motion to amend the agenda to vote immediately on a motion to terminate the solicitor, Eastburn and Gray, as district solicitor and expand the duties of Eckert Siemens to serve as the interim district solicitor at their existing rate until a permanent solicitor can be found.
I'll second.
Mrs. Yardley, I didn't hear that motion.
Okay.
Could you repeat that for me, Mrs. Yardley?
I don't know if I can repeat it. Mrs. Cullen read it, and it's not on the agenda.
Maybe Mrs. Cullen, could you...
Can you read it again louder?
Okay.
Or louder, or speak into the mic, the central...
I'm making a motion to terminate the agreement with Eastburn and Gray, effective immediately as the solicitor, and instead transfer the duties over to Eckert Siemens under their rate that we already have them contracted for until we can find a permanent solicitor.
Okay. So there was a motion by Mrs. Cullen, seconded by Mrs. Banis-Clemens. Questions or comments?
We need to open it up to public comment since it wasn't an agenda item. When we add something to the agenda when we add something that's not an agenda item, we have to open the floor to public comment
Before the board comments?
before we vote. So is there any public comment in the audience?
Is that correct, Mr. Cox?
I believe the policy says that, so sure. Folks can comment about the solicitor.
Okay.
I think it's just on the motion, not, it's only pertaining to this motion, just point of.
Okay, so I'll open the floor to public comment about the motion that Mrs. Cullen made. Any public comment? I'm going to come back to board comment after.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't see or hear any public comment, so I will come back to board comment. Mrs. Miller?
I would just like to say, I am so ashamed of this board right now. This came out of nowhere. This was not discussed amongst board members. A certain majority. This was not discussed in executive session. I'm really disappointed in this board. This motion is coming from nowhere and is catching us with our pants down. This is really unprofessional. I'm sorry. I just have to say that. Thank you.
This motion, there was a motion on the agenda for an RFP. This is not coming out of nowhere.
Correct. There was an item for an RFP.
Yes, there's.
And this is obviously backroom talk. And I think this is violating I'm not sure what it's violating, but not all board directors were involved in this discussion. That's the end of my comment. Thank you.
Okay, so again, there was an item on the agenda for an RFP, which we already did discuss, obviously, and it's not required. When you hire an attorney for something, you don't actually have to have an RFP, but we decided to do that. And the motion for that failed, and I think it's in the best interest that we, for reasons that can't be discussed for confidentiality, that we would instead take this measure this evening. So it's not coming out of nowhere. I think that's a disingenuous statement. And it was something that we had all discussed together. There was discussion.
I have a comment. So Eckert Siemens is the firm of Ryan Cassidy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, the firm that we have for.
And has anybody discussed with him or with his firm if they're willing to take on the solicitor role in the meantime? Has anybody discussed that with them?
They do offer solicitor services and are able to do that in the interim.
Okay, but what if they're too busy to take over a day-to-day? I mean, the solicitor is involved with the school district on an almost daily basis. Is that correct, Dr. Radigan? So how do we even know that they're able to take on this job?
I had asked if they have solicitor services and if that would be something that we could utilize if in the meantime until we hired a new solicitor.
So you contacted the lawyer without talking to anybody about whether they could take on our solicitor services?
I asked him a question, which is perfectly within my right to ask him a question.
So you asked him if his firm had solicitor services? Or you asked him if his firm was able to offer solicitor services at this time to our school district? I think they're two very different questions. Which one did you ask?
Are there other comments from board members?
Well, that's my question. I think it's a very important question. My question is, how do we know if you want to how do we know that they're able to help the district on a daily basis?
Then abstain or vote no.
But I mean, the people who made the motion, who made the motion and seconded the motion, how are you confident that they're able to help the district at this time? I would like to know. I think it's a fair question.
It is a fair question, and it's also a fair, it's fair for people to inquire, just as Mrs. Banis-Clemens said. There's no requirement, just like we all did when we hired Eckert Siemens as the arbitration attorney. We all personally went out and asked attorneys if they would be interested in doing that, and then we had them come in. So the question was asked if they have solicitor services and if they're available, and the answer is yes.
Okay, so
My other question is, what is the current rate, since I don't have that readily available?
I think it's $350.
$350 an hour, and then what's the current rate for Eastburn and Gray?
Don't know.
$145 an hour.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Dr.
Yes,
Yarnell?
I do. I do think this is very unprofessional tonight. I agree with Mrs. Miller on that score. As I mentioned, I made the motion to include an RFP, which is what the board discussed. The board did not discuss a specific other law firm. They certainly did not discuss putting that on as an immediate decision tonight. I think that Mrs. Cullen had it all written down. It certainly wasn't discussed with me. I suspect it wasn't discussed with other board members. So it was some of the board deciding on what they wanted to do without consulting all. So I thank you very much, board members, for that consideration tonight.
Yeah, I have to agree with Dr. Yarnell that we did discuss the RFP, and that was it, and we were moving towards interviewing other lawyers and to open it up and see, what if the price, and since we have new board members. So I find it very surprising that, and I think it leaves, and not even looking at that, but I think it can leave the district in a difficult situation to change lawyers, at a meeting without any planning. So that's how I see it. I see that there's no planning to protect the district. So
there is planning to protect the district. We can have them transition, and obviously anything that requires Eastburn and Gray to continue with those pending things that we can't talk about, they can do that. And also to say that board members never discuss anything. I mean, if you're suggesting that we had something that violated any kind of a rule whereby we had a meeting of a number of people, a majority of people, then that's a pretty strong suggestion that you're making. And I take offense to it because that's not what occurred. We did have a discussion about the RFP, but situations change. And I believe that this is the best course of action right now.
Did your motion say to terminate services immediately?
With the transition.
Can you read it again, please?
Yes, because I like to have it on there. Sorry. I cannot. Sorry, I cannot find the file. Okay. I move that the board amend the agenda to vote immediately on a motion to terminate the services of Eastburn and Gray as district solicitor and expand the duties of Eckert Siemens LLC to serve as interim district solicitor and at their existing rate until a permanent solicitor is found. If approved, the board will direct Eckert to work with Eastburn and Gray to transition all legal matters on an appropriate schedule that protects the district.
Mrs. Yardley, I'd like to understand how many board directors know about this motion before tonight's meeting.
Yeah, I don't know that we can ask that, but.
Well, I think that's really rhetorical. I think we know.
Okay.
I'm very disappointed.
Well,
so disappointed.
I have one other question, though.
I'm done.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, but I do have one other question because we had an RFP.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Ms. I do have one other question for the board. So we had an RFP motion that nobody seconded. So we actually don't have an RFP. We have nothing to move forward to find a permanent solicitor.
Well, like I said, you can do just what we did with the negotiations attorney, which was we did not have an RFP. We invited attorneys individually, as I recall. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as I remember it, we talked about needing an attorney for the labor negotiations, and it was said that we as board members could invite people to apply. I didn't invite anyone. I didn't have anybody. I don't know who did, but we did invite people. We had interviews, and we hired an attorney. We can do the same thing in this situation. And again, just because you had an RFP discussion doesn't mean that things can't change. Matters have changed, and I feel it's in the best interest. I think we should probably vote at this point.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. And I can't answer. I don't recall the exact process. I would have to look into that process again. All right. So I will call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
Nay.
All right. Seems like the motion passes 5-4. Is that correct? So, yeah. No. Mrs. Dolan? You were a yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I was a no. Yes. No. And yes. And Mrs. Miller. So the motion passes 5-4. All right.
Mrs.
The
Yardley?
announcements.
Mrs. Yardley?
Yep.
I have one motion I'd like to put on the table. I'd like to make a motion to remove Mrs. Yardley as president of this board effective immediately and replace her with Mrs. Megan Banis-Clemens. The motion's on the table.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Krause, second by Ms. Kildare. All right. I have a comment. Actually, I have a letter that I would like to read. Dear Dr. Radigan and members of the Pennridge School Board, I have served as a Pennridge school director for more than 8 years. My goal has always been doing what is best for students in our community, and I proudly served with integrity, sincerity, reason, and hard work. At this time, however, the needs of my family must be my priority. It has become increasingly difficult for me to give my best efforts to both my family and to my obligations as a school director. Therefore, I am saying that I must leave my post as a school director. I am committed to honoring my obligations through the end of this school year, as I would like to give the board time to find my replacement. So I am resigning my position as a Pennridge school director effective June 19th, 2018.
Mrs. Yardley?
Yeah.
I follow you with that. I'm walking off with you, effective June 30th as well.
Yeah, mine's June 19th. It's the day after the June meeting.
June
because
19th. I'm sorry, June 19th. Yes,
yeah, because
I'm with you.
Because I am going to continue with my obligation to find a new superintendent and approve the budget and finish this school year.
Yes. I'm
Okay.
with you.
Any other comments?
Rob, where does that leave the motion?
There's a, well, I mean, you're asking someone that you just fired.
Sorry.
So I'm going to refrain from giving
There you
any
go.
more advice
All right.
to the board.
Okay.
And I'll just add that it's been a pleasure, and good luck to all of you.
Yeah, so
Is there public comment from the audience?
would anybody like to make a public comment?
There we go. Good evening. My name is Tim Dios. I'm a social studies teacher at the high school. I'm also the president-elect of the Pennridge Education Association. Community member. Have lived in this district all my life. My children, I graduated from Pennridge in 1985. Both my children graduated from Pennridge, proud to say. And my grandchildren's going to eventually graduate from Pennridge. First off, I would like to thank Christine Yardley for her service as school board president. quite sure what's going on, but I do know that this is not how we act in Pennridge. This is not how we have a community, run our community. I'm embarrassed. Yesterday there was an article, I believe it was the Morning Call, that stated that school boards are getting divided, and to beware of that. There's even a motion in the state legislature that would eliminate the ability of school board directors to cross-file. Beware of the partisanship that you're demonstrating. This isn't a game. There's 7,000 students out there that are depending on you to make appropriate decisions. This isn't about your ego. This isn't about any little bit of power you perceive to have. You can work this out. You can come together. I definitely believe that you are in need of some soul searching. My suggestion is break some bread, have a discussion, and try to solve this problem for the betterment of our students. Thank you.
Comment.
We're still doing public comment.
Andrew Rumbold from Berksey. The teachers union is one of the unarguably the most powerful force in this state and has been running the education apparatus for far too long. So any decision that they are against, I am for. The teachers union is a coercive organization that forces teachers to be part of their union membership as a condition of employment. So it's refreshing to see, although people have commented, the ones that just left, have commented that this is improper. This is the most functioning I've ever seen this board in years of coming here. And it's a refreshing thing. So I appreciate it. I think we can do better, and I'd like to see this motion approved. Thank you.
Diane Herring, Hilltown Township. I just would like, as probably one of the most long-standing attending members of the public, to thank Mrs. Yardley for her years of service. I can imagine that the choices that you have been making over the years and the conflicts have not been easy, and that you have also probably had to face a significant hurdle personally between work, life, home, kids, and everything else. And you did do this job, which is non-paying, of your own volunteer time. And I would just like to say thank you for that. And as for those of you in the room who may or may not know, Mrs. Yardley and I have not always gotten along on most issues, okay? But I do appreciate and respect the fact of the contribution that she has made. That notwithstanding, I'm actually quite inspired this evening by what has somewhat transpired. For too long now, I think while people may say, such as Mr. Dios, that you don't want division, as I'm often reminded by my better half,
If we all agree on everything, one of us is unnecessary. And sometimes disagreements bring about change, and I think change is needed in several different areas. Personally, while I appreciated the opportunity to participate in the steering committee, I will say I'm very disheartened by that participation. Because when I left that evening, I was simply told that my name was going to be put on a report that the board would vote on. I got a once and done, 2 hours, and my name gets put on something I don't even get to see a draft of. That's concerning for me. And I don't know anybody else who participated other than a few people that I spoke to who also agreed. Deeply concerning. I really hope that in this process, you might want to revisit that. But thank you again for your time and your effort, Mrs. Yardley.
Any other public comment? Okay, so comments from the board.
I would like to make a comment, and it's unfortunate that all of those people walked out. I take offense to being told that we are putting our politics above our principle, because I have sat on this board for 2 years, and I have on multiple occasions put my principles above politics. Actually, I always put my principles above politics, and I have been pleading for months that we do that very thing from my other my colleagues on the board, and that fell on deaf ears. We tried to come together, we tried to have an understanding, we asked that the feelings of the board be presented to the public as a unified front, and we were denied on that. So to have someone come here and say, after the effort that I have made, that there's politics being put ahead of principles, I think they might have it backwards on who it is. That's all I want to say, because I have served with fidelity to this board. I have defended people who are quote-unquote across the aisle. I've never seen myself on this board as anything but a board member. I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, and to have that thrown in my face today after the effort that I have made is highly offensive to me. I have been trying to work to bring this board together, and it just wasn't happening. So I just want to get that out. I hope that maybe they'll watch the video or not make an effort at all, but for them to walk out, I think, before all the commenting was done was cowardly.
Any other board comment? Okay, so I will call the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay?
Nay.
Was it, nay? Okay, so motion carries 5-4.
Is there any other new business?
No, but I would like to make a comment. I sincerely hope that what happened tonight, isn't going to be just the beginning of more of the same. I expect that we can come together, and we should come together. And I won't, just because I made this vote tonight, shouldn't be taken as a signal that I would tolerate any kind of idiotic partisanship. So I'm just putting that out there to serve notice. Thank you.
Does anyone, you were pushing your thing, I didn't know if you had something to say.
I was just going to thank Mrs. Yardley for answering all my beginner questions, and thank you for, helping everybody, that's new on the board. I just wanted to say thank you, because you have helped me and answered my questions.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Bill Kraus as the vice president.
I'll second that.
Is there any public comment?
Just the same as before. What I said before carries over to this.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
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 Okay, so that motion... Sorry. Motion carries 6-3. Okay, announcements. The next regular school board meeting is scheduled for May 14th. We were supposed to have an executive session following tonight's meeting, but we are canceling it, or I'm canceling it. Super executive sessions were held on April 3rd, 4th, and 12th for the purpose of personnel matters. Are there any questions or comments from guests or the press?
Andrew Rumbold from PERC-C again. Actually, what I have is pretty timely considering everything that happened here tonight. And I hope this is the start of the board actually running the district as opposed to the administration running the board and expecting them to just rubber stamp things. And the other thing I'll say is that I think, whoever's on the committee right now to negotiate the new contract, you have the full power in this contract to demand that the teachers union collect their own dues and stop having the district collect the money for them. They're a private political organization. They should collect their own dues. I think we saw exactly what they're all about when they get up and walk out of the room like that. So please, make it a point to do that, to demand, it's perfectly legal to demand they collect their own dues. The other thing I wanted to talk about, which given the change in the legal thing, was the right to know, the unofficial right to know policy of the district. I've made a lot of right to know requests in many different organizations, and I understand how it works. I've had appeals, I've won appeals. There's a right to know officer in the district. They're supposed to make a determination about what information is public or not. And when the information is not, then it goes to a 30-day legal review. And I've had these happen. However, what's going on right now is that there's an unofficial policy, according to an email I received back from one of your staff members about my right to know request for the right to know request information. It says, Mr. Rumbold, our standard practice is to send all requests to our solicitor for legal review. I'd like to know when that practice was formally approved by the board. It seems like it's a cash cow for the solicitor. They get to review every single one, and I have copies of some. And this was back last year. I mean, things as innocuous as, mailing lists, stuff that's clearly public information. And yet we're paying the lawyer, hundreds or thousands of dollars a month, as we were reminded by the prior president, who used to get up and admonish the community about how much the district spent on legal fees a month before. So I'd like to see you guys take control of this process, not send every right to know request for legal review unless it's really required. I think we have highly paid staff members that are in charge of the right to know, and we should be expecting a little bit more of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Good evening. My name is Lee from PERC-C, Lee Rush. I don't know why I come to these meetings. No, it's a bad joke. I know exactly why I come. I woke up this morning in Kansas City, gave a talk to a lot of people about bullying with children. I think some of you know my background. For those of you that don't, I spent many years teaching over at the alternative school in Sellersville for kids that got involved with juvenile court. Come on over, I'm tired. Spent my career in education, counseling, conflict mediation, restorative justice. One of my most proud moments years ago, I got inducted to the Wall of Fame. And I admit, when I walk in, I look every now and then, I feel really proud. graduated Pennridge, like so many people in our community, decided to stay here and raise families here. I don't want to bore people, but my ancestors came and been in Bedminster since 1600s, 1700s. We've been here a long time. I love this area. I'm really sad tonight. I think what I witnessed was the first coup d'etat that I've ever seen in our district. It's not pretty. And I'm not one to debate anybody's point of view. I don't know many of the new board members. I always prided myself to get to know people, who they were, understand their thinking. As a teacher, that's one of my most important things, to understand where people come from. You know, John Kennedy wrote a great book called Profiles in Courage, and he says some of the hardest things in politics, and it is politics. All life is pretty much politics, regardless of party, but it's politics. And one of the hardest things is just to share with people where you're coming from, what you're thinking, so citizens and other people can understand. I agree with so many points from so many different points of view, especially the right to know stuff. I understand. I mean, that just, as a citizen, it's like, okay, come on. It's our right. It's what this country was founded on. So the fight begins, I guess. I don't know what the fight is, but there's nothing wrong with power struggles. They happen all the time. There's nothing wrong with people using power for the betterment of what they see they want done in a community. The way that people use power, that's where things get really kind of ugly. The duplicitous ways, and I'm not saying anybody here was that way tonight, because I don't have enough information. I need to learn what really went down tonight. I was told the Wall of Fame members get an extra minute. Is that true? No? Sorry, Peter. I'm sad. I'm just really sad. I don't know what's going on. I'll learn. I'll find out as much as I can. And yeah, it's not a game, folks. This is not a game. There's thousands and thousands and thousands. Forget the kids. Just like multiply it by their siblings who lived here and their relatives and their parents. I hope you truly understand what the majority has undertaken, because we're about ready to hire a new superintendent. And too bad Mr. Cox's not here, but he's right. The board has 4 legal functions: hire superintendent, approve curriculum, approve a budget, and make sure the policies are passed that are legal and are going to withstand lawsuits, because they're going to get sued all the time. It doesn't matter. Just you want to make sure they're good policies. But that's what concerns me, the kind of folks that will be attracted to come here. And I guess time will tell how this unfolds, but it's a very serious time. And I hope that you've all searched your hearts and souls about what you're undertaking. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments?
Hi, my name is Amy Hoffman, and I'm a teacher here, and I just forgot my green suit, and I don't really know enough about politics to leave when everyone leaves or to stay, or so I just will make my own decisions. But I just noticed that I want to say 2 things. I think that it's really dangerous to lump people into general groups. I think that's how wars start, between people, between countries, between friends and family. And I think that everyone here really wants the same thing. And I know that this is my 18th year in this school district, and there isn't anything that I wouldn't do for any one of my kids in my class. And so I'm sure that we all really appreciate each other far more than anyone was really able to express today. And I just want to say, I know that everyone is doing the best they can. And I just want to say, whatever we're doing, to be grateful to each other and to remember to thank each other and that we're not each other's enemies, and that I'm very proud to be a school teacher in this district, and I just hope that we're not going to lump you all into a category, and I would just hope that you wouldn't lump us into a category as well. So, thank you.
I appreciate your comment and for staying and sharing your thoughts with us. Are there any other comments?
I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I'll be sorry if I don't do it. I'm very disheartened by the fact that all the staff, by and large, left. But I do really have to thank you, Mrs. Hoffman, for having the unique perspective that you have. I hope that you communicate that with others in your surroundings. It would help, I think. There has been a lot that has transpired in this district in the last 12 weeks. A tremendous amount that I don't even think the vast majority of people in the community have a true understanding of exactly what has gone on. But I will say this. I will not accept what went on here Saturday again. Let me be very clear. There will be no more graveyard building during detention. There will be no more Stars of David desecrated. Any way you want to cut it, it's on video. 200,000+ people. So whatever drove tonight, it needs to happen further along. Because what is going on around here in the day-to-day right now needs to stop for the benefit of the kids. Okay? There are a lot of kids right now who paid a lot of money to try to take AP exams in a week and a half. They need that time in the classroom. They do not need more distractions. You're in the middle of state testing. That needs to be fixed because the culture in this building needs to stop being ratcheted up as high as it is. Because they may not all be here on Saturday, but let me tell you, that Snapchat, that Instagram, that Facebook, that Twitter, it's incessant. So whatever happened tonight, I hope it keeps going, because it needs to for the benefit of the kids.
Thank you. Is there any other comments?
Sue Furlong, West Rock Hill Township. I was as surprised as anybody tonight. But I want to just give you a few reflections that I've had. The prior president of the board chastised common citizens every month because they would exercise their perfect right for right to know. It was antagonistic. I was glad that that was over. I hope that it would get better. I submit right to knows on a fairly regular basis, not all the time. I try not to be a complete pain, but there are things that I want to know and they're not published on the website when I see them published on other districts' websites. So I have to take the time to write a right to know. And then I know I'm running up legal fees that I got to pay on stuff that is perfect. It's even on other websites for other districts. But I get the 5-day delay, and then I get the 30-day automatic knee-jerk, oh, well, we don't have the staff, and we don't have this, and we don't have that. I can't ask for something that doesn't already exist. So why it takes the staff 30 days, I don't know. If it doesn't exist, I get to be told, no, we don't have it, sorry, you don't get it. I ask for things that I know exists, and I get the 30-day runaround. This board, this administration has put a stiff arm out to the public over and over for more than 12 months. 24 months before this regime, this one didn't get much better. So I'm hoping that the new one respects the integrity of the citizen to understand and know what is happening in this district. And I remember that there was training, so I know at least that it's available if our administration has not taken the training, to inform them in generalities what is available to the public upon request. So I think that if our administrative people in the Right to Know office have not had that training, get it now. Do not keep running up the legal fees. Do not delay response. The public pays your salary. We have a right to know a lot of things that ought to be up on the website. And I shouldn't even have to wait the 5 days. And when I request things that already exist, I ought to have a fairly decent turnaround. So I'm hoping that the new board sees to it. I hope that the administration responds. And the public is a partner with you. We pay the bills. We have a right to know.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay, I just wanted to say in response to the comments about the right to know requests, I do think that's something that needs to be looked at when we hire a new solicitor on a permanent basis, the process of the right to know request, because I think it is unreasonable if you even request a copy of the board minutes that it goes through the attorney even though they're on the website. So I think some of that needs to be looked at, and when we talk about comparing rates of attorneys, some of that is how much you also have to compare all of the extra work that an attorney is doing at that, or how many extra hours are being spent at those rates as well. Are there any other comments from anyone?
Yeah, I want to make a comment because I might not get to see Mr. Rush or Ms. Hoffman, before you leave. But I want you to understand, and everybody to understand, that no decision that I make is made lightly. And all of the points you made, Mr. Rush, about how extreme what happened tonight was, understand how much it took for me to get to that point. So I hope you appreciate all of the thought that I put into it. It's not something that I would ever do lightly. And I have tried my best to do what I thought would be better, and this is where we came to. So I hope from today going forward that it will indeed be better, but please don't think that I just woke up this morning and decided, well, boy, I'm going to shake things up tonight, okay?
We can talk after.
Yeah, she can talk to you. Any other comments from any other board members?
I have a comment. Not related. My dad wanted me to tell everyone that. Sure. What? Oh, okay. A alumni of the school, Terry Jones, passed away. He was a football player here, and possibly, we believe, my dad and I were discussing, the first state champion. And Mr. Rush might be able to help me. Do you remember Terry Jones? I don't know how I have this, but anyway, he wanted me to have him recognized because he was a state champion in high hurdles here. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, and Joan, I just want to thank you for your comments, because I agree with everything that you're saying, and I appreciate you you sharing that response. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second, please.
All those in favor? Aye. The meeting is adjourned.
I'm going to hang out with you then.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, bye.
I'm like, what? I'm worked up. It's okay. So I can help Megan. She needs to know when you made these folders by. That you gave to Christine, but and just pass them over to Megan. When does she have to sign them by? We would like them tomorrow, the next day. Okay.